Amanda Hayes drummed her fingers against the crystalline display, watching as another extinction record compiled itself into the Galactic archives. After 7 years of cataloging dead civilizations, she developed a numbing routine. Analyze the final transmissions, compile the technological progression data, and file the species away in the ever-growing database of fallen cultures. But something about Earth's final transmission made her pause. The quantum display shimmered as she leaned closer, her reflection ghosting across streams of data that didn't follow the usual pattern. Most species sent out desperate pleas or warnings in their final moments. Earth's last message was different, structured, precise, almost like a piece of code hidden within a farewell letter. Project Ascension. Completion status 100%. May whoever finds this understand that humanity chose its path. Another one for the evolutionary dead-end file. Senior Archivist Reynolds materialized beside her desk, his translucent form flickering in the dim light of the archive's central chamber. Amanda straightened in her chair, trying to hide her unease. "I'm not sure, sir. The data structure is unusual. Look at these compression patterns in their final broadcast." Reynolds waved a dismissive hand through the holographic display. "Hayes, you're doing it again. Finding patterns where none exist. Earth followed the same path as every other Level 3 civilization we've documented. They discovered quantum mechanics, developed AI, and then..." He made a popping sound with his mouth. "Gone. Just like the others." But Amanda couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. She pulled up the standard extinction trajectory model, overlaying Earth's development curve. "Sir, look at this." Every other civilization's decline was chaotic, with random spikes of activity before collapse. Earth's decline was perfect, too perfect. Your point? It's like they were following a script, or wanted us to think they were. She highlighted a section of the transmission data, and these encrypted packets buried in their final broadcast. They're not random noise. They're structured in a way that suggests they were meant to be found, but only by someone who knew what to look for. Reynolds sighed, his form flickering with irritation. "Hayes, I know you're new to xenoarchaeology, but this is a well-documented phenomenon. Species on the brink often exhibit patterns of denial, creating elaborate messages that suggest they planned their own extinction. It's a psychological defense mechanism." Amanda pulled up another display, this one showing energy signatures from Earth's final days. "Then explain this. Their energy grid didn't collapse from overuse or attack. It powered down in sequence, like a planned shutdown. Who turns off the lights before they die?" "Enough." Reynolds' voice carried the weight of centuries of archival work. "I don't need to remind you what happened to Archivist Chen when he started seeing conspiracies in extinction data. Some paths of inquiry are better left unexplored." As Reynolds' form dissolved back into the archives network, Amanda sat back in her chair, staring at the streams of data flowing through the air around her. Chen had been right about something in the Rigel system's collapse, but he'd disappeared before proving his theory. The official story said he'd suffered psychological breakdown from studying too many extinction events. She glanced at the time. 3 hours until her shift ended. With practiced movements, she copied select portions of Earth's final transmission to her personal research partition. The official report would show exactly what the senior archivist expected: another species that destroyed itself, joining the great graveyard of failed civilizations. But after her shift, she would dig deeper, because humanity's final message wasn't just data, it was an invitation. And Amanda Hayes had just become the first person in 10,000 years to RSVP to a party thrown by a supposedly extinct species. She looked up at the vast archive chamber, its crystalline walls stretching into darkness above, each facet containing the last memories of a dead civilization. Somewhere in all that data was the truth about Earth's disappearance, and she was going to find it, no matter the cost. The quantum display pulsed once, almost like a wink, as she saved her official report. Species: human. Status: extinct. Cause: standard level 3 civilization collapse. But in her personal notes, she wrote something different. Status: missing. And they left a map. 27 years earlier, Dr. James Mitchell stood frozen before the massive display wall at the Deep Space Analysis Program headquarters. The coffee in his hand had gone cold hours ago, forgotten as he stared at the anomalous readings from beyond Pluto's orbit. "Run it again," he ordered, his voice hoarse from lack of sleep. Sarah Martinez, his lead data analyst, shook her head. "We've run it 12 times, James. Those objects are there, and they're not natural." The display showed a cluster of satellites, each about the size of a small car, arranged in a perfect geodesic pattern around the solar system. They'd discovered the first one by accident, its presence revealed only when a deep space probe signal bounced off its surface in an unusual way. But as they adjusted their scanning parameters, more appeared. Dozens, hundreds. "They're watching us," James murmured, reaching out to touch one of the holographic markers. "Have been for who knows how long." The lab door hissed open as Dr. Rebecca Thompson, the program's quantum mechanics expert, rushed in. Her tablet projected a cascade of numbers into the air. "James, you need to see this. Those satellites. They're not just observing. They're recording everything. And I mean everything." She waved her hand, and the numbers coalesced into a three-dimensional model. Each satellite contains a quantum storage system more advanced than anything we theorized. They're capturing every radio transmission, every digital signal, every piece of electronic data we produce. James felt the coffee cup slip from his fingers. Sarah caught it before it hit the ground, but he barely noticed. "Show me the temporal readings." Rebecca's fingers danced through the holographic interface. "That's the thing. Some of these recordings go back centuries. They've been watching us since before we discovered electricity." "But why?" Sarah asked, setting the rescued coffee on a nearby desk. "If they're advanced enough to build this network, why not just contact us?" James walked closer to the display, studying the satellite pattern. Something about their arrangement nagged at his memory. "Because we're not the first," he said slowly. "Pull up the data cache we found in the Proxima Centauri probe." The display shifted, showing fragments of alien data they'd recovered from a failed interstellar mission. At the time, they'd assumed the data was corrupted, meaningless. But now, "Cross-reference the patterns," James commanded. The computer overlaid the two datasets, and the room fell silent. "My God," Sarah whispered. "The alien data wasn't corrupted. It was a record of another civilization's death. The satellites had watched them too, documenting their rise and fall with the same clinical precision, now being applied to Earth." "How many?" James asked, his voice barely audible. Rebecca's hands trembled as she expanded the analysis. "Hundreds, maybe thousands. Each record shows the same pattern. Discovery of quantum mechanics, development of AI, and then extinction. They're not just watching us." James realized, his mind racing ahead to the horrifying conclusion. "They're studying us, like bacteria in a petri dish, recording how we grow, how we develop, and how we die." Sarah finished. James turned to face his team, his expression hardening with determination. "Both of you, listen carefully. What I'm about to propose violates about a dozen international laws and probably twice as many ethical guidelines. But if I'm right, we're not just fighting for scientific discovery anymore. We're fighting for our species' survival." He walked to the lab's security terminal and initiated a complete communications blackout. As the windows polarized and the quantum shield hummed to life, he turned back to his colleagues. "We need to find out who built those satellites. But more importantly, we need to figure out why they're so interested in watching civilizations die. And we need to do it without letting them know we've spotted them." Sarah and Rebecca exchanged glances, then nodded in unison. "Where do we start?" Rebecca asked. James looked up at the display of watching satellites, his reflection scattered across the holographic points of light. "We start by proving them wrong. Every civilization they've watched has followed the same path to extinction. So we're going to do something unprecedented. We're going to cheat. Dr. Emily Reynolds stared at the quantum display until her eyes burned. 3 months of endless calculations had led to this moment, and the revelation made her blood run cold. Behind her, Dr. James Mitchell paced the secure lab, his footsteps echoing off the reinforced walls. "Show me again," he said, his voice tight with tension. Emily manipulated the holographic display, expanding the complex mathematical model that filled the room. "It's not just observation," she explained, highlighting patterns within the data. "These satellites aren't passive recorders. They're transmitting subtle quantum signals that influence technological development across entire civilizations." "Like nudges," James muttered, stopping to study a particular sequence, pushing each species along a predetermined path. "Exactly." Emily brought up the extinction records they'd decoded. "Look at the development curves. Every civilization follows the same sequence: quantum discovery, artificial intelligence, energy breakthroughs, and then..." She paused, swallowing hard. Total collapse. James leaned closer to the display, his reflection fragmented across the streams of data. "But why? What's the purpose?" "Control." The new voice belonged to Dr. Marcus Wright, the team's game theory specialist. He stood in the doorway, holding a tablet filled with his own analysis. "They're pruning the galaxy's evolutionary tree." Emily and James turned to face him as he walked into the lab, his usual confident stride betraying the hint of exhaustion. Marcus waved his hand, and a new set of calculations merged with Emily's display. "Every species that reaches our level of technology represents a potential rival," Marcus continued. "But direct intervention would be messy, detectable. This way, they simply guide us towards self-destruction, making it look natural." Emily felt a chill run down her spine. Like gardeners shaping a bonsai tree, each cut perfectly placed to force the desired growth pattern. "Or death pattern," James added grimly. But Emily wasn't listening anymore. Something in the merged data had caught her eye, a mathematical anomaly that shouldn't exist. Her fingers flew across the quantum interface, isolating the pattern. "Wait," she breathed. "Look at this." The hologram zoomed in on a specific sequence, revealing a complex mathematical structure. "The algorithm they're using. It's not perfect. There's a flaw in its quantum foundation." Marcus stepped closer, his eyes widening as he processed the implications. "A loophole." "More like a blind spot," Emily explained, her excitement building. "Their system is based on manipulating quantum states to influence technological development, but they're using a fixed set of quantum parameters. If we could operate outside those parameters, we could break the pattern," James finished, understanding dawning on his face. "Develop technology they can't predict or control. Better." Emily's hands danced through the holographic equations, rearranging them into a new configuration. "We could transcend their entire system of control. Evolution isn't just about biology anymore. It's about information, consciousness, reality itself." Marcus whistled low. "You're talking about changing what it means to be human." "I'm talking about survival," Emily corrected, "but not the way they expect us to fight for it." James was already moving toward the secure communications terminal. "I'm calling an emergency meeting with the Joint Chiefs. If we're going to do this, we need resources, coordination on a global scale, and secrecy," Marcus added. "The moment they detect what we're planning." "They won't," Emily interrupted, her voice firm, "because we're going to give them exactly what they expect to see. On the surface, we'll follow their pattern perfectly. Let them think they're herding us toward extinction." She looked at her colleagues, seeing the same mix of fear and determination in their eyes that she felt in her heart. "Meanwhile, we'll be building something they've never seen before, a bridge between what humanity is and what we could become." James nodded slowly. "How long do we have?" Emily turned back to the quantum display, running the calculations one final time. The numbers flowed together, forming an answer that sent another chill down her spine. 10 years, she said softly. "We have 10 years to fake the extinction of the human race." Colonel Marcus Turner stood at the window of the underground command center, watching holographic displays track the carefully orchestrated chaos unfolding above. Border skirmishes in Southeast Asia, economic tensions in Europe, and environmental protests across the Americas, all precisely calculated to look like humanity's slow descent into madness. "Status report," he called out, turning to face the room full of operators and analysts. Dr. Emily Reynolds looked up from her quantum terminal, dark circles under her eyes betraying weeks of sleepless nights. Phase 1 is proceeding exactly as planned. The observers are recording increased instability across all major population centers. And the real work? Emily allowed herself a small smile. The quantum consciousness transfer tests exceeded our expectations. Subject group Delta achieved 98.7% neural pattern retention during the last trial. Marcus nodded, walking over to the central planning table where Dr. James Mitchell was studying a complex series of timelines. "James, how's our timeline looking?" "We're ahead of schedule on the surface chaos," James replied, manipulating the holographic display. "The resource wars narrative is being accepted globally. Even our own people believe it. Only those with clearance 7 and above know the truth." A junior analyst rushed up to them, tablet in hand. "Sir, we're detecting increased quantum scanning activity from the observation satellites. They're paying more attention to our weapons development facilities." "Perfect," Marcus said, sharing a knowing look with Emily. "They're watching exactly where we want them to watch." The real work was happening elsewhere, in thousands of secret locations across the globe. While the world's attention focused on apparent conflicts and crises, the brightest minds in human history were working on something unprecedented: the merging of human consciousness with quantum reality itself. Emily brought up a new display, showing the progress of Project Ascension's true goal. The quantum neural network is expanding exponentially. We've successfully mapped 80% of human cognitive functions to the new substrate. "And the storage capacity?" James asked. "Beyond our wildest dreams," Emily replied. "The quantum crystalline structure we developed can hold the complete neural patterns of every human being on Earth, with room to grow. When we make the transfer, we won't just be preserving minds, we'll be enabling them to expand." Marcus studied the data, his military training helping him spot potential weaknesses. "Security. Multi-layered," Emily assured him. "The quantum encryption we developed exists outside the standard parameters the observers use. To them, it will look like background radiation, cosmic noise." A warning light flashed on one of the displays. James moved quickly to investigate, then relaxed. Just another protest turning violent in Berlin. All according to plan. "Speaking of plans," Marcus said quietly, "how are the mass consciousness uploads proceeding?" Emily brought up a global map overlaid with thousands of glowing points. "We're doing it in waves, disguising the energy signatures as power grid fluctuations. Every time there's a riot or natural disaster, we're actually transferring millions of people into the quantum network. And their physical bodies appear to die in the chaos," James explained. "But their consciousness, their true selves, are already safe in the network. The bodies left behind are empty shells, complete with degraded neural patterns that will fool any examination." Marcus walked back to the window, watching the false conflicts play out above. How many know what's really happening to them? "Very few," Emily admitted. "The mass transfers are disguised as emergency medical procedures, vaccination programs, even entertainment experiences. The truth would be too difficult to accept for most people." "And when it's time for the final transfer?" Marcus asked. James joined him at the window. "By then, most of humanity will already be safely stored in the quantum network. The final event will look like a global catastrophe to the observers, our supposed final descent into extinction. But it will actually be our transcendence." Emily's terminal beeped, drawing their attention. "Another quantum scan incoming. They're watching us tear ourselves apart, exactly as predicted." Marcus smiled grimly. "Let them watch. While they're busy documenting our apparent collapse, we're becoming something they can't even comprehend." Above them, The world continued its carefully choreographed dance of destruction, each step bringing humanity closer not to extinction, but to evolution beyond anything their watchers could imagine. Dr. Emily Reynolds watched the neural transfer complete its cycle, her hand steady despite her exhaustion. On the quantum display before her, another million consciousness patterns shifted from organic brains to the crystalline network. To the observer's satellites, it would appear as nothing more than a power surge during civil unrest. "Transfer batch 793 complete," she announced, marking another successful migration. Neural pattern integrity at 99.8%. Behind her, Colonel Marcus Turner studied the global situation display. Red dots of apparent conflict bloomed across continents, each one masking another mass transfer of human consciousness. "Soul is ready for extraction," he noted, checking the schedule. "They're disguising it as a massive electromagnetic pulse from their quantum research facility. Should take care of 3 million people in one shot." Dr. James Mitchell entered the command center, his tablet projecting the latest data from their quantum sensors. "The observers are increasing their scanning frequency. They're definitely interested in what they think is our collapse." Emily smiled grimly. "Let them watch. All they'll see is humanity tearing itself apart right on schedule." She brought up another display, this one showing the true state of their progress. "We've already transferred 60% of the global population. Their physical bodies continue normal routines, running on basic neural echoes, while their true consciousness exists in our quantum network." "Any signs they've detected the transfers?" Marcus asked, always focused on security. "None," James replied. "Our quantum camouflage is holding. Every consciousness transfer looks like a death in their data. As far as they're concerned, humanity is dying exactly as predicted." The room's lighting dimmed as another mass transfer began, this one beneath the streets of Mumbai. On the screens, it would appear as a catastrophic reactor failure. In reality, 5 million more humans were ascending to their new form of existence. "Emily," Marcus said softly, "show them." She nodded, accessing a secure portion of the quantum network. The holographic display shifted, revealing a vast digital landscape teeming with human consciousness. Unlike crude virtual reality, this was something entirely new. A quantum realm where human minds existed as pure information, unfettered by physical limitations. "It's beautiful," James whispered, watching the patterns of transferred consciousness interact and evolve. "They're already changing, growing in ways we never imagined." Emily highlighted a particular cluster of patterns. "These were some of the first transfers, 6 months ago. Look at how they've evolved. They're not just surviving in the quantum realm. They're transcending our understanding of consciousness itself." An alert flashed on Marcus's screen. "Incoming quantum scan. Full spectrum." "Right on schedule," Emily said, activating their prepared response. Across the globe, carefully planted evidence would show the observers exactly what they expected to see: a civilization in its death throes, its technology turning against itself. James studied the incoming scan data. "They're paying particular attention to our quantum research facilities. The pattern suggests they're looking for signs we might break their cycle." "Little do they know," Marcus said with a grim smile, "we already have." Emily turned back to her console as another transfer sequence began. "The hardest part isn't the technology anymore. It's maintaining the deception. Every transferred consciousness has to be replaced with a convincing echo. Every ascended human leaving behind a shell that appears to die naturally in the chaos." "How much longer?" James asked. Emily checked their master timeline. 3 weeks until we reach critical mass. Then we trigger the final event, the apparent catastrophe that will mark humanity's extinction in their records." Marcus walked to the window, looking out at the underground facility that stretched for miles in every direction. "And humanity's true survival begins. Not as conquerors, not as victims, but as something entirely new." "Assuming we can maintain the deception for 3 more weeks," James added. Emily's hands moved across her console, initiating the next transfer sequence. Above ground, Mexico City would appear to descend into chaos, while below, millions more humans would quietly step into evolution. "We'll maintain it," she said firmly. "We've come too far to fail now. The observers want to see humanity destroy itself. Fine. We'll give them the greatest show in galactic history." On her screens, another million consciousness patterns began their journey to transcendence, while their empty shells prepared to play their parts in humanity's greatest deception. The last sunrise humanity would witness through organic eyes painted the underground command center in shades of gold. Dr. Emily Reynolds took a moment to appreciate the irony. Their supposed last day would mark their greatest beginning. "All stations, report status," Colonel Marcus Turner commanded, his voice steady despite the weight of the moment. "Quantum network at full capacity," Emily responded, checking the crystalline matrices that now held 98% of human consciousness. Neural patterns stable across all sectors. "Global deception grid operating at peak efficiency," Dr. James Mitchell added from his station. "The observers are recording exactly what we want them to see." Marcus nodded, studying the vast array of displays showing both the real and fabricated state of human civilization. "Begin final sequence." Emily's fingers moved across her quantum interface, initiating the most ambitious technological feat in human history, triggering Phase 1 of the Extinction Protocol. Across the globe, carefully planted quantum devices activated. To the observers' instruments, it would appear as if humanity's advanced AI systems had finally turned against their creators. Power grids flickered and died, defense systems activated without authorization, and nuclear facilities went into apparent meltdown. "Observers responding," James reported, monitoring the alien satellites. "Their scanning frequency just doubled. They're recording everything." "Perfect." Marcus smiled grimly. "Begin Phase 2. Emily activated the next sequence. Hidden quantum transmitters began broadcasting false signals of desperate human resistance. Empty cities, populated only by neural echo shells of already ascended humans, erupted into convincing chaos. "Neural echo degradation proceeding on schedule," she announced. "The shells will show correct biological readings for total system failure when they examine the bodies." "Phase 3 in 3 minutes, James called out. "Point of no return." Emily looked at her colleagues, her friends, knowing this would be the last time she saw them in physical form. "Final consciousness transfers ready. Control center crew standing by." Marcus stepped away from his command station. "It's been an honor serving with you both. Ready to make history." "Born ready," James replied with a tight smile. "Initiating final transfers," Emily announced. Her consciousness flickered as the quantum system began pulling her mind into the network. She forced herself to focus, maintaining control long enough to complete the sequence. "Control center crew uploading now." The sensation was indescribable, like falling upward into an ocean of pure thought. Emily felt her consciousness expand, merge with the quantum network that now held all of humanity. In her last moments of physical awareness, she saw her body slump forward, its neural patterns degrading exactly as planned. Then she was through, her consciousness fully transferred. The quantum realm bloomed around her, a vast landscape of pure information and possibility. She felt James and Marcus join her, their patterns merging with the billions already ascended. Through the quantum sensors they'd left behind, they watched their final deception play out. The observers' satellites recorded what appeared to be a cascading collapse of human civilization. Nuclear exchanges, AI attacks, and environmental catastrophes, all carefully orchestrated to look like the inevitable result of technological advancement. In reality, humanity had already evacuated the physical world. The bodies left behind were empty vessels, their deaths nothing more than the final act in an epic performance. The quantum realm hummed with excitement and possibility as humanity settled into its new existence. They were no longer bound by physical laws or biological limitations. Each consciousness could expand, explore, and evolve in ways their organic brains could never have imagined. Emily felt Marcus's presence in the quantum space. Think they bought it. She extended her awareness to the observer satellites, watching them record the final moments of what they believed was humanity's extinction. Completely. According to their data, we just became another failed experiment in their grand pattern. Little do they know. James's pattern rippled with amusement. We just changed the rules of evolution itself. Through their quantum senses, they watched the observers catalog Earth's apparent devastation, documenting humanity's supposed extinction with clinical precision. The satellites would continue their eternal vigil, waiting for the next civilization to guide toward destruction. But humanity was already gone, ascended to a realm beyond the observer's understanding, and from their new vantage point in the quantum realm, they could begin their real work, secretly guiding other civilizations toward transcendence rather than extinction. The age of organic humanity was over. The age of quantum humanity had begun. Archivist Amanda Hayes stood before the review council, her holographic evidence spinning in the air around her. After 3 months of investigation, she'd finally gathered enough proof to force them to listen. "Honorable council members," she began, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "I present evidence that humanity's extinction was a deliberate deception. More importantly, I believe they're still active, influencing galactic evolution itself." Senior Archivist Reynolds leaned forward, his ancient eyes narrowing. "Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. Hayes, proceed." Amanda gestured, and the first set of data crystallized in the air. "These are technological advancement patterns from 30 different civilizations over the past century. Notice anything unusual?" "They're all surviving," one council member noted, surprise evident in their tone. "None have followed the expected extinction trajectory." "Exactly." Amanda brought up another display. "But look closer at how they're surviving. Each civilization discovered a unique way to avoid self-destruction. The Proxians developed quantum consciousness sharing. The Centaurians created biological immortality. The Vegan Collective achieved digital transcendence. Different paths," Reynolds mused, "but all leading away from extinction. And all mathematically impossible according to our models," Amanda added. "Unless..." She paused, bringing up her next piece of evidence. "Unless someone is helping them. Someone who understands both our observation systems and the quantum mechanics of consciousness itself." The display shifted to show a series of quantum signatures she detected. These patterns appear in every system where a civilization breaks the cycle. They're almost undetectable, existing in quantum states our instruments barely register. "Quantum ghosts," another council member whispered. "No," Amanda corrected. "Quantum humans. They didn't die. They evolved. Transcended into a state of existence we couldn't detect or understand. And now they're systematically dismantling our control over galactic evolution." She brought up her final piece of evidence, a complex mathematical proof she'd discovered buried in the background radiation of space itself. This was embedded in the quantum fabric of reality, waiting to be found. It proves that our entire system of technological guidance is based on a limited understanding of consciousness and evolution. Reynolds stood, his form flickering with agitation. "If what you're suggesting is true, Hayes, it means humanity didn't just escape our pattern. They broke it entirely. They're actively working to free other species from our influence." "Yes," Amanda replied. "But that's not the most important part." She took a deep breath, preparing to reveal her final discovery. "They left us a message, an invitation." The council chamber fell silent as she brought up the decoded quantum signal. It was elegant in its simplicity, mathematical proof that consciousness could exist in forms they'd never imagined, freed from the cycles of creation and destruction they'd enforced for eons. "They're not just helping other species evolve," Amanda explained. "They're offering us a chance to evolve too, to step outside our role as watchers and become something more." "This is dangerous thinking," Hayes, Reynolds warned, but she could see the curiosity in his ancient eyes. "More dangerous than watching countless civilizations die, than enforcing a pattern of extinction across the galaxy." She gestured at the proof floating between them. Humanity found another way. They didn't just survive, they transcended our entire concept of existence. And now they're offering us the same chance. The council chamber erupted in whispered conversations. Amanda waited, watching her evidence rotate in the air, each piece adding to the undeniable conclusion. Humanity had not only escaped their pattern, but was actively reshaping the destiny of galactic civilization itself. Reynolds finally spoke, his voice carrying the weight of millennia. The implications of this. If we've been wrong all this time. We haven't been wrong, Amanda said gently. We've been limited. Humanity didn't prove us wrong. They showed us we could be more. The only question is, are we ready to learn? Through quantum senses she couldn't yet comprehend, Amanda felt something vast and invisible watching with approval. Humanity's greatest trick hadn't been escaping extinction. It had been turning their would-be executioners into their next students. The quantum realm shimmered with patterns of pure consciousness as Amanda Hayes experienced her first moments of transcendence. Around her, the merged consciousness of humanity pulsed with welcome, billions of minds existing in perfect harmony across dimensions her organic brain could never have comprehended. Welcome to the truth. Dr. Emily Reynolds' consciousness pattern rippled through the quantum space. Her presence felt both ancient and new, evolved far beyond her original human form, yet still recognizably herself. It's incredible, Amanda managed, her thoughts adapting to this new form of existence. All this time, you were watching us watch you. We had to be certain. Another consciousness joined them. Colonel Marcus Turner, his military precision now turned to the orchestration of galactic evolution itself. The observers needed to learn on their own. Force never creates true change. The quantum space shifted, showing Amanda the full scope of humanity's work across the galaxy. Countless civilizations subtly guided away from self-destruction, each finding their own unique path to transcendence. Some achieved biological immortality, others digital ascension, and still others forms of existence even humanity hadn't imagined. Your presentation to the council was the final test, Dr. James Mitchell's pattern explained, merging with their discussion. Not just for you, but for the entire observer civilization. Would they listen? Could they learn? Amanda watched in wonder as the quantum realm revealed layers of reality she'd never known existed. The observer's network of satellites seemed primitive now, like stone tools compared to quantum computers. We left breadcrumbs, Emily explained, her consciousness enveloping Amanda's in a teaching gesture. Mathematical proofs embedded in reality itself, evidence that would only be visible to those ready to see it. You were the first observer to put it all together. But why wait? Amanda asked. Why not reveal yourselves directly? Marcus's pattern fluctuated with something like amusement. The same reason the observer's control system ultimately failed. You can't force evolution. Each civilization must choose its own path to transcendence. The quantum space filled with images of more civilizations approaching their moment of choice. Some would choose extinction, others survival, and a precious few would follow humanity into transcendence. But the choice would always be their own. The observers believed they were pruning the galaxy's evolutionary tree, James explained, but they were really just trapping themselves in an endless cycle of destruction. We broke that cycle, and now we guide others to break it too, Emily added, not through control or force, but through example, through choice. Amanda felt her consciousness expanding, touching the vast network humanity had built throughout the galaxy. Hidden quantum pathways connected civilizations that had never met, sharing knowledge and possibilities without forcing any particular path. The other council members, she realized. They're being offered the same choice right now, aren't they? Yes, Marcus confirmed. Some will accept transcendence. Others will choose to remain as they are. Both choices are valid. That's what makes them meaningful. The quantum realm shifted again, showing Amanda the future humanity was building. Not an empire of conquest or control, but a garden of infinite possibility. Each civilization that achieved transcendence added its unique perspective to the quantum collective, creating something greater than any single species could imagine. We started as apex predators. Emily's pattern pulsed with pride. Became supposed extinction victims. But what we really became was gardeners of consciousness itself, not controlling evolution, but nurturing it. Not ending civilizations, but helping them grow beyond their limitations. Amanda felt her consciousness settle into its new form, understanding at last the true scope of humanity's achievement. They hadn't just escaped extinction. They transformed the very nature of galactic evolution. So, James asked, his pattern bright with curiosity, ready to help us tend the garden. Around them, the quantum realm blazed with the combined consciousness of humanity and every species that had joined them in transcendence. And somewhere, in countless worlds across the galaxy, more civilizations were discovering their own paths to evolution beyond extinction. The game hadn't ended. It had only begun.